So in our previous Star episode, we cleared out the Beast Titan menace, and now Tectonia mines are free.
Hooray!
Up above on the plateau, we had our Steel gym leader Fiona helping build a special scientific facility. It'd be absolutely massive and would combine some of the best features of Pokemon games. So welcome. Welcome to Tectonia Park. So Tectonia Park would be a special combination of a daycare centre, a way to get fossil Pokemon, as well as a safari zone. The way it would work is that Tectonia Park would have constantly revolving biomes each day on plates that would contain specific Pokemon. So on one day we would have some desert Pokemon in the safari zone, while on another you'd find swamp Pokemon. Each biome would have unique mechanics to make it a bit more interesting. Because you are the hero of a star, you'd get the first visit each in-game day free, and every other time would cost money. No time limit, but you'd have limited safari balls to use instead. I like the way the old Safari Zone works, but in 3D games I think it would make more sense for it to play out more like a Mini Legends Arceus game, where you'd be given mud balls and food items to try and either coax or enrage the various Pokemon here, all in a third-person shooter sort of style, the same as Arceus. Or the rest of Astara, but here you can freely catch Pokemon without needing to battle them. The Safari Zone would also have a higher chance for high IV Pokemon and shinies, but more so than that, it'd be the only place to find recovered fossils. So all around Astara, much like item drops, as well as all within Tectonia mines, you'd find fossil shards, instead of finding specific fossils for Pokemon. This would work like a different form of currency that you could trade in to revive fossil Pokemon. In fact, every fossil Pokemon, including ones already with Astaran forms, would return, giving you a massive incentive to hunt them all down. And even Arctrevolt would be made available this way. Once you buy a fossil Pokemon, they become freely available to catch in their relevant biomes in the park. This is where they use the fossils you make to bring back fossils in a safe and controlled environment. But what about Astara special fossils? Well, there are two special fossils to find combined with fossil shards to rebuild new Pokemon, as well as a special Pokemon you can catch that once brought to Tectonia Park will not only evolve, but its Evo will be available to catch at the park. So let's delay no further and go in on a paleontological discovery. So let's talk about the Opalized fossil first, because this fossil has a special gimmick. See, these two Pokemon are based on the idea that certain fossils in Australia were found built with opal in them from their time underground. Because there's two Fossilmon here, when you trade in the Opalized fossil, you could tell the person the orientation of the fossil, and that'd depend on what you get. A very Galar-esque way of fossils, but I enjoy that sort of goofy kind of paleontology that Pokemon brought in. So right side up we get a Pokemon known as Fostodon. Based on an iguanodontian dinosaur found at Lightning Ridge, covered in opal. I wanted this Pokemon to be sleek and look like it was speedy and strong fighter. Obviously had to replace some parts with opal, and I thought having the beak and giving some sharp knee spikes really gave it that look of not being weighed down by the opal. For these two I moved away from the rock type. I know opal is a rock, but my idea was that instead the opal gave them the steel type, just to mix things up a bit. I also gave the body a recognisable pattern, one that you'd notice is flipped around on the fossil's other form. Opal is such a cool material, I feel like in 3D this Pokemon would really shine. Fostodon, the Opalized Pokemon, a steel and fighting type. Fostodon in the past weren't exactly the same as the reconstruction in modern Astara. Due to their skeletons being opalized, it seems that Fostodon has taken on some of that opal. Its beak and claws are quite sharp and will use them to defend itself as it is quite the adept fighter. Their thick tails provide balance during combat and even as an extra leg when more stability is required. In ancient times it seems that Fostodon were predated on by Tyrantrum and Archeops. Please note, keep them separate within Tectonia Park. Fostodon's abilities are sturdy and sharpness. Meet Eric the Opalized Plesiosaur.
Hey guys.
This is the inspo for the flipped version of this Fossilmon. I actually mixed both Plesiosaur and Plesiosaur as well as Leaplatino for the name and design. A big combination of various aquatic dinosaurs. Similar opal head but covering more this time. And because we don't have the arms and leg fins of this Pokemon, a mass amount of opal instead is replacing them. Maybe not the most aqua dynamic, but hey, it's Pokemon. I wanted to keep the eyes similar for the two, but I didn't really like how it looks, so you'll see me change the eyes a few times. This one is much more monstrous and Phostodon, and you can see it taking chunks out of ships with that big spiky maw it has. Leaplatino, the Opalized Pokemon, a steel and water type. Leaplatino in the past weren't exactly the same as the reconstruction in modern Ostara. Due to their skeletons being opalized, it seems that Leaplatino has taken on some of that opal. A giant and ancient hunter, it seems even without the opalized jaw, Leaplatino were incredibly dangerous in the ancient waters of Ostara. We theorize the only thing that could hunt Leaplatino or Dracovish. It seems to have a few problems getting used to their fins and the added weight that comes from the opalization. Further research into removing this opal must be conducted in future. Leaplatino's abilities are strong jaw and swift swim. So we also have another fossil that you'd have to find and bring to Tectonia, but this one would be connected to Pokemon Farm. Accidentally found when harvesting certain berries, you'd find the ancient berry, a half chewed on berry fossil that might have some trace amounts of Pokemon DNA on it. So what would revive from this fossil would be based on an extinct species of fruit bat, the Pteropus bruneus, or the Percy Island flying fox. I actually designed the second stage first, but I wanted Brunpuff to look like this funny little puff with various bat aspects poking out of it. It'd be a rock fairy type, which I think we are sorely needing. Very small and very cute, and probably another Pokemon that just get launched through the wind like Jigglypuff. Maybe that's why they went extinct. Brunpuff, the fruit bat Pokemon, a rock and fairy type. Revived from remnants of ancient berries that this Pokemon ate, Brunpuff can only be found in Tectonia Park. Unable to fly fully, Brunpuff would float between trees and cling to them with their sharp claws so that strong gusts wouldn't throw them away. Their teeth aren't very sharp, but are used to easily crush up berries when their parents aren't around to do it for them. While sleeping, it finds tree hollows to rest in away from the elements. Traces of the rock the fossil was contained in seems to have changed the typing of this Pokemon. Brunpuff's abilities are Levitate and Harvest. You know how I love my flying dinosaurs. While this isn't exactly a bat per se, Megateros has multiple inspirations. I like the idea of this giant fruit bat dinosaur whose palms were stained from crushing berries, and would maybe even give it some of its fairy-type power. It's sort of Noivern in design, maybe even a past ancestor of Noivern. I gotta say, I'm really happy with how the hands look. Always gotta appreciate a win for shape design. It's got almost fruit-like designs with the saber fangs and fingers and toes looking kind of like bananas. Much less fluffy, but shorter fur for the best aerodynamics for flying. Again, this would probably be on the Professor's team. While not flying type, it is dangerously close. Another one to add to the list. Megatero, the fruit bat Pokemon, a rock and fairy type. During its time, Megatero were noble and powerful Pokemon that may be an ancient ancestor to certain bat Pokemon today. Megatero eat exclusively berries, which has actually stained the white fur of their paws and tail. They'll crush berries up using their paws to give to their young. The neck fur of Megatero seems to be able to grow the ancient berries that they were once so fond of. This has helped greatly in the restoration efforts at Tectonia Park. Scientists believe that Jetzacodal were the prevailing rival to Megatero, which ended their existence. Megatero's abilities are Levitate and Harvest. So for our final line, it's a little different. Instead of finding the fossil of this Pokemon, you'd find the actual Pokemon deep below in the final floor of the Tectonia Mines dungeon, and a rare little encounter, and would only evolve by bringing it to the park. This Pokemon is based on the Tasmanian tiger or Thylaspine, a very cool animal that brought one of my favourite childhood games, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, into being. The idea behind this Pokemon is a little morbid, this one being the sort of ancestral protected fetus of the Pokemon. It'd float about, only the ghostly energy parts of its body actually moving, and those bone patterns on its back sort of only showing during battle. It even looks like it's crying, which is fitting of any extinct species. I also gave it an almost spine or bone tail. It only looks like that though, I didn't want it to look too skeletal. This one has almost a Shedinja feel to it. Thylaspine, the living fossil Pokemon, a rock and ghost type. Only recently discovered in the depths of Tectonia mines after the Beast Amalgam's defeat, this seems to only be the base form of this Pokemon. Thylaspine is an eerie Pokemon. It does not eat, drink or sleep, only floats curiously around. It does seem to have sentience and an interest to our world. The strange energy emanating from Thylaspine seems to protect it, cloaking Thylaspine when attacked. This can also be used to sap the strength of their enemies. It seems that with some ancient fossil parts, Thylaspine can evolve. Thylaspine's ability is Curse Body. So once brought to the park, they'd use the power of science to help evolve your Thylaspine, as long as you paid with a bit of fossil. This would also allow Thylaspine and its evolutions to start spawning in the park. The evolved form, Sentinel, is essentially like the fully formed version of Thylaspine. It now looks like an actual dog shape and has the same ghostly energy, but instead of crying, it now flows off the ears like ectoplasm. The bones on its back still forming when it's in its attack mode. Actually, I imagine even the claws coming out of the paw lines too, being this ghostly avenger. It'd mostly be used as some kind of sacrifice bait though, using something like Memento to fade itself and impart its ability to an ally or something like that. It's a loyal guardian of people and Pokemon alike because it understands how lucky it is to be back. Sentinel, the guardian Pokemon, a rock and ghost type. Sentinel is only a recently discovered Pokemon, but we have learnt so much already. An incredibly loyal Pokemon, it seems to bond closely to a trainer or Pokemon, and will throw its life on the line for them. The markings and ghostly energy on Sentinel seem to flare up when in trouble, and will encase their body. If Sentinel were to faint, it inspirits their bonded ally and cloaks them in that same energy. Strangely enough, Sentinel's body is exceptionally light, allowing it to leap massive distances. We cannot tell if this is how it was in the past, or it has taken on this form due to fossil revitalization. Sentinel has a new ability called Afterlife, which upon fainting gives an allied doubles partner, or the next Pokemon sent out +1 to both defensive stats. So each of these Pokemon would be found on different parts of Tectonia biomes. Phosphidon and Megaterra would probably be found on plains and forests, while Brunpuff only in forests. Leaplatino in the beach and underwater biomes is an aggressive spawn, while Thylaspine and his Evo would be found on mesa and plains biomes. Obviously every fossil Pokemon would find its place among the biomes as well as various Safari Zone Pokemon. Maybe I should make an episode on rare Safari Zone only Astaran Pokemon. But for now, what do you think of Astara's fossil Pokemon? Comment down below your thoughts and chuck a sub and like and share the video around with other Pokemon or fossil fans. In the next video, I wanted to indulge myself in creating some Mega Evolutions for normal and Astaran Pokemon. Then after, for Astara explorations, we'll meet our villain team. Villain duo. Thanks so much for watching and I hope to see you next time.
Years will give you such a crick in the neck.